and was like, my administration has accomplished more than anyone in the US history before Lincoln or something like that. And everybody laughed at him.
Yeah. God, what a laughing stock. Although I don't know, we got Joe Biden, who seems to be forgetting where he is while he's on stage.
And he can't help himself but to fall everywhere he goes. He's gonna
right. Slipping Joe, apparently. Well, that's all the time we've got today, Jackson. A pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tell the people where they can find your content, where they can see more of you.
Yes, you can see me on Rebel HQ, and you can also check out my YouTube, youtube.com/@politicsandpaper. I do daily live streams. I got a show that I'm coming out with probably in the next 3 weeks or so that I'll be doing weekly memberships coming up. Politics and Paper on YouTube. Check it out.
Awesome. Thank you again for being on with me today. Yes. It's always so much fun when we get together. And thanks everybody for watching. Stick around because the watch list is next, so you'll want to see that. But then come back the same time tomorrow, and you'll get to see more of me actually filling in for Senator Nina Turner here on Unbossed.
Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's going on, Ma? It's the watch list, you guys. It's a Monday on the watch list, and as you saw right there, it's just the best damn day of the week. Now, an intricate part of that best damn day of the week will hold for a second because I have something to show you, and it says a lot. Watch.
Critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. It's amazing how strongly people feel about that. You see, I'm talking about cutting taxes. People go like that. Talk about transgender. Everyone goes crazy. Who would have thought 5 years ago you didn't know what the hell it was?
Who would have thought? Donald Trump revealing something I guess he and his followers don't know about the way that they've approached politics lately. It's, when I talk about bad policy, like how I'm cutting taxes for the rich and screwing all you guys over, in reality, what you guys actually care about is my hate speech. And every time I say something about someone I've told you to hate because you didn't hear about transgender folks before a year ago, you go crazy. Weird how that works. Yeah, that's an internal thought process that Donald Trump likes to have. And then when he's seen his followers of going and duped for all of these tricks that he's pulled on them, he thinks, well, why work hard at anything else? Just let them cheer at how much I hate people that they hate as well because I told them to hate them, and then we'll screw them over on the back end. I didn't say it. Donald Trump just said it. It's over and over and over again. So don't blame the libs for the next time that you're screwed over and you can't get a job and you're blaming someone else for it, or your money's gone and there's inflation, there's the third and the fourth and the fifth thing. Just listen to him when he says, I've distracted you. And you hate people because I told you to hate them. Now go along with me and empty your wallets. Yeah, it's the watch list. Yeah, I'm in a bad mood. We got more things coming for the show today. I've been traipsed around the studio, people wondering what's wrong with me. I'm tired. Not fatigue tired, like not enough sleep, like I'm tired of all this nonsense. I'm tired of the stupidity. I'm tired of people being duped. I'm tired of all the fights and go back and forth with it. But we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna get into what it has been going on since the weekend. Since we're on this theme of how people get duped and how people get indoctrinated and to believe nonsense about their lives so they can go on and provide, I guess, more clout, money, influence, and power for the most hateful people in our country. Let's go ahead and go to Talking Points USA, and they had an event over the weekend. Of course, that's headed by Charlie Kirk and his crew. And this time, instead of talking about how manly men should be doing things a certain way, I believe this is probably the second or third a yearly event where Talking Points USA has this Young Women's Leadership Summit. Leadership Summit. Think about that when they go into things that they say about women like this.
You could become an orthopedic surgeon and still do that. But there will be a lot of people that says, oh, just put the family thing on hold and put that on hold. I just want to caution you, a reality is that there are a lot of successful 35-year-old orthopedic surgeons that have cats and not kids. And they're very miserable. Most of the radical left is largely being run by childless young ladies, young women that are in their mid-30s that are super miserable on antidepressants because I think they're missing something.
Charlie Kirk thinks that they're missing something. Apparently everyone should listen to Charlie Kirk, especially young women that he knows nothing about. But there he is telling folks, women in particular, young women, that if you're pursuing your goals and dreams of being an orthopedic surgeon, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, there's a man you can lay under and then let him rule over your world. That's what happiness is. You know, let's figure out why he went down this road, even of talking about cat ladies that happen to be orthopedic surgeons. And all you women that are orthopedic surgeons out there, I'm sure you're standing up and going, yes, I hate my life. Let's watch this question and answer.
I am very driven career-wise, and my goals are set on succeeding as an orthopedic surgeon. And I have really rarely thought about even getting married, having children, and even going into dating. Like, it's just something that I never really thought about.
You're gonna have to choose which one matters more. Go try to spend a couple days with babies, and if it doesn't move you to want to have some of your own, then go do the surgeon thing. I mean that. If you don't get baby fever being around young kids as a young lady, then you kind of have your answer. But if you're around a young child or a young baby, or like all of a sudden something greater than yourself gets activated, or all of a sudden you feel maybe a prodding by the Holy Spirit, then you got something to think about. And there's nothing wrong with being driven to your career, but I'm career driven. but my relationship with God and my family come way above my career. And I think all of you guys should have that exact same thing. If you so desire, if you want to just say all career all the time, maybe it will work for you. But the evidence is overwhelming. That will lead to an empty life. And then you got to ask yourself, why do you want to be successful, right? What is it? Is it material success? Is it a title? If that's the case, then that will never actually bring you ultimate fulfillment.
A young woman that has plans of being an orthopedic surgeon, and she's thinks she's gonna go through all of this schooling, which will take her to close to 30 years old before she's able to focus on herself, as she pointed out, is asking Charlie Kirk for advice on what to do. Because Charlie Kirk apparently has a background in orthopedic surgery. Apparently he's been to medical school. Apparently he's a surgeon as well. Why are we asking Charlie Kirk what to do with your life as a young woman when he is none of the things that check the boxes for what it is that you're about to experience? I didn't say that you don't have to ask him, but I'm just wondering what it is that he's told you to make you believe that he can say anything that can apply to your life that would make some kind of sense. That's all. I mean, I wouldn't advise you ask me either, because I don't have any of those boxes checked either. But if you would like to do something that you want to do, hey, young woman, do it. And then if you choose not to do it anymore, don't. It's such a simple process. Hey, do what you want with your life. These limitations that these types of folks put on people and tell them how they should live and what God will tell them to do with their lives, it's based in making more money, getting more clout, and more power. So if you want to keep putting your life in his hands, which I have a pretty good feeling she probably won't, but this is still the propaganda push for anyone else that's in these similar situations. Listen to Charlie Kirk, who would tell you that I'm focused on my career. But first, for me, comes God and family. What the hell are you doing up on stage, Charlie? Go home to your wife and kids. Why are you doing anything else except sitting in the house, taking out the garbage? What are the manly things you're supposed to do? Take out the garbage, make sure you screw in the light bulbs, open up the cans, the jars of peanut butter, and maybe even the pickles in the fridge. Do all those manly things, since all you're supposed to do is sit in the house and do what we always talk about, are the manly things. Because of course, women are supposed to not have anything else to do except have babies, cook, clean, and then please their husbands whenever they come in and demand it.
Who here traveled and you don't know anybody in this room? Raise your hand. Okay, so.
Went for it though. Also what he said was the characterizations of some of these young women. Again, think about conservatives and how they talk about indoctrination and what they want young folks to be in the molding of these super libs. Listen to what he has to say with the crowd in general. Maybe just a mixer type of idea. Watch this.
Listen to this went viral in my feed.
Who here traveled and you don't know anybody in this room? Raise your hand. Okay, so keep your hand up. If you do know somebody, go find somebody with their hand up and introduce yourself. Because here's what we're not gonna do, okay? We have a men's summit now at Turning Point USA. And it's very different than our women's summit, it's very different. It's in the woods and we deprive them of calories. There's no disco ball. It's a whole thing. I will say though that our women's summit is different in a couple different ways. I'll tell you about it. One of the things is that it tends to be a little cliquey. You ever seen Mean Girls? Okay, that's what I mean. We're not going to do the cliquey thing, okay? So I am telling you to go out of your comfort zone. If you are here with a friend, to go find someone that does not know a soul here, that was bold enough and courageous enough to travel halfway around the country, and you're gonna go introduce themselves so that tomorrow when I ask that question, no one raises their hand.
It's like these are still grown women. I think some of them may be high school age, but I thought this is about college aged women, and maybe it's high school girls, I guess. But he's talking to them like they're 5-year-olds. Hey, all you kids out there, you're like mean girls, and all you girls do is ever stab each other in the back. You guys, you like to fight. And on Wednesdays, Wednesdays, we wear pink. Whatever it is, he thinks he's lecturing these women and girls apparently on who they are and how they act. There's a simple way of telling folks, hey, you guys have a mixer. I hope you guys get to know each other. Let's do an event. This happens at all kinds of things where they have events and they like to get the folks more comfortable with each other. But it has to be based in, how you women are. You know how you guys are whenever you get around each other. You get to clicking each other, and then you gotta start making friends and stabbing each other in the back, don't you? Oh, look, she's not wearing Prada. She's only wearing what, Old Burberry. So this is who he thinks he's talking to. And this is also apparently what they think of women, and they want women to then think of themselves. And that's all they're limited to. So make sure you get your ass back in the house, go to cooking, you're not pregnant yet, and make sure you don't make friends with those girls who like to talk about freedoms and all those things. Because they just might get in your way of true happiness. He's not the only one that was speaking at this. I'm sorry, there was a little bit more from Charlie Kirk. There's more happening here. They've gone through the characterizations of what kind of women and girls there are, how they shouldn't have careers, or maybe if you want to, but you're gonna be a lonely cat lady because research tells him that. But outside of all of that, nothing is a full conservative event without complaining about some colors in a certain order on a flag outside of the hotel that they were hosting this event at. Apparently one that Charlie Kirk was efforting to get taken down, but he didn't have the power. Watch this.
This social contagion that is spreading the country at a rapid pace that disguises itself as transgenderism. And it is accelerating, it is not slowing down. You see it on equal footing outside of this hotel. I tried my best to take down the flag, everybody. I tried my best, I failed, okay? I'm sorry, I tried my best. I know you are all thinking it, right? What is that all about? By the way, this hotel better do something or we're gonna find another hotel because I'm not gonna come back. This is ridiculous. Here I am, I see the American flag, the Texas flag, and the the whatever thing. And I say, this is not right. This is an insult to all of us, to our traditions and our customs. This is not right. So Lauren, don't sign that contract for next year, okay? You listening? Yes, let's see what we can do. I'm not putting up with this, and you should either. And so, this is spreading.
Spreading. If he's not putting up with it, you can just leave. You don't have to have the event. There's still that pride flag out front as you're inside talking about all this. Doesn't that demean it? Doesn't that change the entire narrative that you're pushing there? Isn't it bastardized? Now that there's a rainbow flag out front of the event, some people might mistake this for an event that actually accepts people for who they are. And we know that's definitely not the case here. There's something that one user did point out, and I wasn't aware of it either, so I looked it up. One person then tweeted and said, yo, there's an odd scheme going on with this young women's leadership summit at this event for Talking Points USA. And if you could look closely at it, it looks a bit like, as this one person pointed out, and I looked it up, the lesbian pride flag. Since we're talking flags and the fear surrounding it, there's that sequence, a sequence of colors there. And lesbian pride flag, this is according to Tribe Pride Tennessee pointed this out. This lesbian pride flag featuring 7 different shades of pink, orange, white, and red is flown as the official lesbian flag. In some cases, an older variant is also flown, which features more red and pink in the stripes instead of the orange. But also, sometimes the red and pink variant features an addition of a lipstick mark in one corner and is flown to celebrate the subculture of lipstick lesbian. Again, I'm getting this from this one particular site. I wasn't sure about the color scheme, but if you look at the still shot from the background and the stage, which also apparently the color scheme was all over the event, looks like a bit of indoctrination to me. So these young women and college-aged girls, young girls and college-aged women apparently are being indoctrinated because if there's a flag or if there's a color scheme in a certain order with certain colors on it, that they'll be mesmerized. Their eyes will start spinning, and there's nothing but women around. Make-out sessions will go down. They're gonna go back to the hotel. Next thing you know, there's gonna be lesbian sex all over the place, all because there's colors behind Charlie Kirk talking on stage that resemble a lesbian pride flag. Does it sound effing stupid? It's because it's a stupid thought process. The same stupid thought process that goes, look, there's a rainbow flag out front. Looks like children are being indoctrinated. Look, there's people dancing and lip syncing in drag. Looks like more children are gonna become gay or lesbian or trans because of it. It doesn't make any sense. But they've convinced enough people that it makes sense. Enough people to make that it makes sense, and also you should hate others that don't agree with that, and maybe even go a little violent towards them as well. This is the state of this country in 2023, and it's led by people like this. Charlie Kirk was not the only person that was speaking at this event, though. Benny Johnson, you guys saw it for. Benny Johnson also took to the stage. He's a staple there with Talking Points USA. And honestly, there's some things about that he's going through in here that I think could be mentioned as to each their own. But for some reason, he can't get to that point. He has a story about some lib woman who has an issue with the kind of lib men that she runs into. This is his story.
Listen to this went viral in my feed. This lib woman posting about how she can't find, she wants a really big, strong man who provides for her, who's an alpha, but there's just one problem.
Do you want to know one of the saddest realizations I recently had? Was that as a liberal woman, it is really hard to find a man who's willing to play the more traditional masculine role in the relationship in today's day and age, who is not a conservative. A man who wants to pay on the first date, who wants to open your door, who has that want and desire to take care of you and to provide, who is not a conservative. And obviously, as a liberal woman, I do want to be respected for my independence. And I do want to have my own autonomy in the relationship and not be confined or conform to the traditional female homemaker, childbearing role. And most of the men that I've dated who do have that more natural provider masculinity about them are normally conservative. So I don't really know what to do because I don't want to compromise my morals and values just to find a man. But am I asking to have my cake and eat it too?
Well, you can learn how to bake a cake first. If you want a cake, you need it too. So, have you been a great woman? There ain't nothing wrong with being a trad wife. Being a trad wife's based. Men love this.
Being a trad wife is based. Benny Johnson, again, part of Talking Points USA, he did have a speech here at the Young Women's Leadership Summit down in Texas over the weekend. And he was talking about these trad wives. That's what men want. Are you being a good woman? And he had this example of that woman who wanted a man that she feels does traditional things like open doors, pay for dinner on the first date, I guess take out the garbage, things like that. I don't think that's a minimalist small thing that some women want. It's fine. As a matter of fact, the weird thing about characterizing only certain men do this that fall within political lines and political divisions is what's kind of crazy here. She just hasn't run into the right man that she wants. I think that happens with a lot of men and women. You haven't run into the right person that matches and suits you. That's why people date, and some people will get frustrated with the dating pool. It could be anything. But in this particular case, she wants a guy who thinks and allows her, as she pointed out, to still have her values. Isn't that weird? This is the person that Benny Johnson's calling a loser, and they're posting their L's on the internet, that she wants a guy that doesn't want to dominate and control her like her father or something. And then she still gets a guy that pays for dinner on a first date. I think that's just a find your guy thing, not a down the middle, this is a definite thing. Matter of fact, Benny Johnson had more to say. He says actually folks who would fall and conform into his way of thinking are actually happier because they are dominated by their male counterparts. Watch that.
Now, why does even that liberal woman want these things? Well, because science actually shows that conservatives are happier. Conservatives do the kind of things, this from The Atlantic, like getting married, having children, going to church. Conservatives build social connections that make us happy. You are the ones who are actually happy. Pew Research shows this. Conservatives are more likely to be wealthier, healthier, love their job, have friends, be more religious, more likely to be married, more likely to have children, more likely to be satisfied. They're more likely to be happy. And also, when they judge what makes people happy, you know what's crazy? What doesn't make people happy is obsessing about their education, their race, their ethnicity, and their gender. What does make people happy? Having children, living a religious life, knowing God, knowing that that's your body and that's someone else's body. Ladies and gentlemen, lucky for us, strong families build strong nations, and we're the ones having the strong families. We're the ones raising the strong families. We're the ones having the kids. Hey, listen, I mean, at the very least, we'll outbreed them, quite frankly. You see that Ursula? No, I don't think she's gonna have kids. Well, I'll breed them. I'm okay with that. This is a numbers game, baby.
I mean, what? What can you say? So conservatives are happier. Pew Research, study shows that conservatives are happier because they go to church, have children, live lives with their partners, and do what the hell they want. I know a lot of lib families who are married, have children, go to church, and are happy. These aren't exclusive to one or the other. But when you have divisional people like this who like to come down the middle and say, you know what conservatives do that libs don't? And it makes no sense because that's not across the board type of thing. Because I know some heathen ass conservatives all the time that come forward and say, I go to church every day and I respect everything about my kids and their vacant parents, and they don't go to church, or they go just on Easter and Christmas, and the rest of the time they say and do disgusting things that have nothing to do with what Jesus taught, what their pastor is teaching, or what their priests might be doing to their children. Just saying, because that happens all the time. But if you go across this board and say things like, yo, as long as you get married at 18, have 4 kids, and have no ambitions for your life outside of being subservient to your husband, you're gonna be happier. Because I can find some examples of women who got married at 18, had 4 kids, and are very, very unhappy and wish they had 35 cats instead. So this characterization, this broad sweeping brush that they like to push on people, is just to do this weird thing that they like to talk about: indoctrination and grooming. That's why they're talking to young women. Are they talking to 45-year-olds? No, that doesn't work. Let's take this first break, you guys. A couple of your thoughts about this maddening stuff that's going on. It's gonna keep happening. So anybody who wants to conform to it, that's up to them. Again, I'm all about living your life. So cool, do it. I hope you're happy actually. But stop telling other people that they don't get to be happy for the choices that they wanna make for their lives, or who the F they are. Let's take this first break. We'll see you guys in a second.
Welcome to Happy Hour, everybody. After a week of soul-crushing news, we break out the good stuff. Good news, good videos, good people, and of course, drink good alcohol. That's the worst thing I've ever had.
This is the best show.
Full disclosure, we did do a shot right before the show began. It says,
Let's
flamingo.
Flamingo.
The reason you had trouble with that word is it's not a word.
Okay.
This is the one of everything.
I've got a rash. Could I just put it on that to see if it'll take it off?
What did you used to think this was?
Bull.
Drink it, swallow it,
No.
spit it. Oh, that's needed after a day like this. Cheers to Brett Ehrlich. Climax. Uranus smells like farts. Because of course it does. This is the worst sketch ever of a perp. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the guy. This is Sophie's super happy dog story of the week.
This dog is so precious and deserves the world. I'm just not drinking that beer.
Here's my dog. This is Onyx.
Yeah, I would just say that he's exotic because he's not your traditional dog. Still 12 out of 10 because they're all good.
Well, if that made you happy, just wait till you see the best thing ever of the week. There is a woman who moves like a horse.
Why do I want to go home and like try this?
We're actually gonna show you the running butthole challenge right now. What's happening? No, that's just wrong. Every way. And we'll see you next time.
Hey Dave, as you can probably see, Skype froze. Frozen crashed.
You know, I'm watching that documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts, and it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
Back on the watch list, ladies and gentlemen. TYT member, Mountain Dragon, Seaman Assassin 420. Lovely name. Says, what's up, Jr? Great hat. And as a dragon living in and representing the mountains of Colorado, go Nuggets. Yo, I've been following the NBA playoffs as I do. It's my favorite time of the year. It's like Christmas for me. I wore this hat because I like it I like this one. But I totally got my days mixed up. I'm rooting hard against the Nuggets. I know they'll win. I'm still not rooting for them. Dope hat though. Congrats to all of you Nuggets fans out there. You're probably gonna win tonight. Okay, over on Twitch, you guys. Maud Ib69 says JR-tastic Monday. Also, C Zerkley says, I fracking love your hat, JR. Yo, the hat comments are everywhere. Here's another one. Love the lid, JR, from Maddie Height, YouTube. What's up, Maddie? Also, Holiest Yeet says, there's a rainbow emoji. It says, emit colors in diamonds and glass. So are they gay? It doesn't have to make any sense as long as you have hate behind it. Yes, there's also rainbows in this hat too. I guess it's just a big problem. Whoever gazes their eyes on this, and if they're straight, they're suddenly gonna wanna have sex with their same gender. Crazy how that works. Okay, you guys. By the way, I told you guys that it's the best damn day of the week. There's a reason I said so. Look, show you guys here, watch. Here she is, right there. See, Jessica Burbank is here on the program. Of course she is. You guys thought I was going solo today. Not at all.
No, I came late, but I'm here.
You missed a little bit when it comes to the TPUSA stuff, but I've got something fun as well. Jim Jordan is trying to defend Donald Trump after his litany of issues that are mounting on him even further. Let's go here.
Sure, you've seen the photos from the indictment. I'm sure you've seen the photos from the indictment. Is not the same as saying he didn't. There are classified documents in the bathroom, in a ballroom stage, and classified information that we're talking about, information that the United States shares with its allies, critical information strewn on the floor. Does that look secure to you?
Again, Dana, the standard is the standard. The president of the United States, he can classify and he can control access to national security information however he wants. That's the standard. That's the Constitution. That's what the court said in Navy versus Egan, a 1988 case. I don't know how many more times I can say it. Okay, so if he wants to store material in a box in a bathroom, if he wants to store it in a box on a stage, he can do that. That is just what the law and the standard is. Again, I think this just underscores how political this whole thing is. Jack Smith, I mean, you know how political it is when they selected Jack Smith as a special counsel?
It underscores how political it is. Jim Jordan is talking about Donald Trump and his document issues and how he's now been, again, charged with these crimes of withholding all these top secret documents all over the place. But not only just holding them, lying over and over and over to federal agents about it, to the feds about it. That might be a small problem, but instead Jim Jordan is focused on saying he can do whatever the hell he wants with complete a lack of knowledge on what it is that actually happened. I think he knows, he just doesn't want to because Dana Bash tried to tell him and he wouldn't listen. Watch more.
Says, and the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, has the ability to classify and control access to information. That's what the Constitution and the court have said. So you can't obstruct when you can't obstruct when there's no underlying crime. He is not the president of the United States. That is president. He declassified the material.
He says point blank. He says point blank on tape, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't. He says in his own words, it's on tape as part of this indictment that he did not declassify the material. Therefore, it is classified.
Saying he could have is not the same as saying he didn't.
He said now I can't.
He has declassified this material. He said that now he can't, right, because he's not president now, but when he was president, he did declassify. He said that.
Which means that what he was holding was classified.
No, not if he declassified it when he was president of the United States, for goodness sake.
But he's saying point blank in this audio tape that he did not declassify it. What you're saying just doesn't make sense on its face.
I don't know how we can get an interpreter to make sure Jim Jordan understands that everything he's saying is not what happened. Well, he can declassify anything he wants as president. He said on tape that he did not declassify these documents that he is then showing off to friends, buddies, enemies that he's looking to impress. Who knows who he's showing them off to? But you know what Jim Jordan is actually talking about when he says this underscores how political it is? Ask him about Hunter Biden and how much he wants to see his penis and ass all over his laptop and how he thinks this means something more. But the former president of the United States can have top secret documents strewn everywhere and lie about it openly on tape about how he's hiding it from folks and he wants to keep it. And look how cool this is. And then it's okay. How political is it, Jim Jordan? Maybe you can answer the question, Burbank. I've been talking for half an hour. How about you?
Yeah, so when he says about the could have statement, Jim Jordan saying, Donald Trump saying he could have declassified the documents and whether or not he did are completely different things. This is like if the teacher's like, hey, did you do your homework last night? And you're like, I could have. It's like, so you didn't, right? Sounds like you didn't do the homework. Well, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I could have. No, obviously Donald Trump knew very well he didn't declassify the documents. And for Jim Jordan to say, oh, well, you know, it's the president's power to declassify the documents. That's what you do as president. There's a legal process to actually get that done. It's not something that he just says, boom, they're declassified now, and they are. This would be like someone at work who's a food service worker taking a cheeseburger and just like throwing it at the person who ordered it and being like, I give you food, that's my job. No, there's a process for declassifying documents. You have to actually meet with people who understand their contents and the materials, and they will tell you how sensitive the information is, and then you make a determination about declassifying it. There's no way Donald Trump possibly knew the contents of every single document he had. That's why there's a process. He doesn't even know how dangerous it is to have those lying around Mar-a-Lago where there's a ton of foreign adversaries through the hotel all of the time. And so this is a ridiculous situation, and comparing it to Hunter Biden, comparing it to Jared Kushner, comparing it to Hillary Clinton, all of these comparisons, Mike Pence stealing documents, Hillary stealing documents, it's not the same. It's like Donald Trump stole a television and they stole a candy bar. And then they're like, hey, you guys, you walked out with a candy bar, please give it back, you're not supposed to steal. And then they're like, okay, here's the candy bar back. Donald Trump had the TV and they were like, you have a television. And then he ran with it and then bragged about it on Truth Social. And then afterwards said, well, if I paid for it with a credit card, it would basically be the same. I wouldn't have given them the money now anyway. It's like him saying the same thing about the declassification of the documents. You didn't declassify them. It's just a ridiculous situation. And everyone's happy to play lip service for Donald Trump, especially Jim Jordan.
Really odd though. It's like you see it right in front of their faces, but this is how privilege works. As long as I say what the law is, according to my book, then you don't have to really know what it is. Or when you read it and see him literally say on tape, I'm breaking the law, it's not enough. There's more minions falling behind him. One being Lindsey Graham, who gets mad whenever they're cornered and trapped on these types of things. He went on a Sunday show as well, and he was complaining. Watch.
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business. And when an investigation is had about your activity, no, let me finish.
But you didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah. I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show. Yes, I don't like what President Trump did in certain aspects. I don't like that Joe Biden had classified information on the garage. I don't like that Mike Pence carelessly took classified information. I don't like any of that. But what I don't like is a system in America where the Secretary of State, who's a Democratic candidate for president, apply bleach bit to a hard drive to erase emails. You haven't even mentioned that.
I remember Republicans mentioned that. They even had investigations, hearings. That same former Secretary of State also appeared in front of you and you grilled about it constant. Yo, the Department of Justice wasn't fleshed out. I wonder what happened. What's wrong? Why didn't it come together? Are you incompetent at this? I mean, or is it just that you decide to claim that when something is discovered about illegal activity that you will just say it's not really illegal because we're Republicans? There's a reason that they keep pushing this narrative, knowing how absolutely absolutely wrong they are. It's because they got followers like this. And CNN, I believe, wouldn't caught up with a few of them to ask them about this. These are the regular folks that Lindsey Graham and Jim Jordan talk to. And then when they listen to their responses like this, they go, we're on the right track. Watch this.
Doesn't matter to me. Not at all.
Outside the state convention, his supporters are unfazed.
I think it's a bunch of bull. Trump ain't done that. Wrong thing Trump done is saved this country.
They're not going to let it stop. They can't stand the fact that he's running for president. And I am a Donald Trump fan.
It's probably altered, but it's just typical liberal propaganda.
None of the Republican voters CNN spoke with had read the indictment.
No, I wouldn't waste my time on a phony indictment. I don't care about the indictment. You could indict a bologna sandwich.
Last thoughts, Burbank, on Mr. Graham and these idiots?
I think we should indict a bologna sandwich. That's a good idea.
That sounded really bad. Who wants a bologna sandwich? Indict it, please.
Lindsey Graham forgot to have his TV persona for like 2 seconds there. He was like, no, you let me finish. And then he's like, because it wouldn't be nice if he didn't. Like, he just completely realized that he let his demeanor go for a second. I love seeing him do that. But also just the way he speaks. He's like, I don't like that, Hunter Biden had documents. I don't like that they're in the garage. I don't like this. I don't like this. But you know what I don't like? And then he kept going. It didn't make any sense. No. But it's very hypocritical for the same people that were pissed about Hillary's emails to be, upset that Trump's getting indicted for this. They made a huge deal about her not using a private server. And now he had all of these classified documents just in a ballroom bathroom. Like, it's ridiculous. It's so hypocritical.
And by the way, if Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Barack Obama, anybody did anything illegal, they're not my family members. I'm not defending them. Find something then. Let's go to this next story. It's Pride Month, you guys. And there's actually a couple decent news stories about folks who figured it out. This maybe is one of them. Wow, watch.
I'm a Republican, a Christian, and as anti-woke as you can get. I watched the debate about transgender people and attempts to ban gender-affirming care, and to be candid, I'm appalled. The people wanting to ban gender-affirming care have no idea what it is like to be transgender or to have a transgender child. This is not something that's done on a whim. It's a deep-rooted dysphoria that, yes, even has spiritual elements to it. My son has a masculine soul. For years, he tried to be a young woman, and it didn't ease the ache and sadness in his soul. And it was only until he was able to transition to be a young man that the light in his eyes returned. I got involved because I was watching this being portrayed as some kind of a left-wing thing, that there were left-wing parents forcing their children to become transgender, and that's not the case.
To the young people that are out there that are suffering, you are loved even if you have to have a surrogate dad like him. There are people out there who support you and love you, and your life is worth living.
That's Republican Ricky Colby and his son, that he's calling his son, trans son there, and he's realized something. My son is a human being, and he's always been who he is. And how dare I tell him who he is, as he's now happier when he saw this darkness over him and he didn't feel like he was really himself. Odd how that works, but he figured it out. Maybe because it was just personal. I always say that people will never understand anything about anyone else unless they experience it themselves. So some people are like that because they can't put themselves in other folks' shoes. He's an Ohio state rep, and from the floor there in Ohio, he also gave a speech against these other lawmakers on his side of the aisle that are looking to reintroduce this ban on gender-affirming care for minors. This is what he had to say. He had more.
I see it breaking into this left-right thing, and it's really not. There are Republicans, there are Christians who have transgender children. The people wanting to ban gender-affirming care have no idea what it is like to be transgender or to have a transgender child. This is not something that's done on a whim. It's a deep-rooted dysphoria that, yes, even has spiritual elements to it. My son has a masculine soul, and he said he's felt this way since he was 5. He tried so hard to overcompensate and try to fit into being a feminine young woman by participating in beauty pageants. For years, he tried to be a young woman, and it didn't ease the ache and sadness in his soul. And it was only until he was able to transition to be a young man that the light in his eyes returned. You've got to go easy on this. This is a terrible bill. This is not the simple issue being portrayed by the anti-trans people.
You can go ahead and admit you were one of those anti-trans people. It's okay to have an enlightenment and point out why, which I think he's done. But at least in that particular part of the speech, yes, you're one of them. Maybe they can figure where it's coming from more. Jess, your thoughts on this? Because, again, they see it then, but they won't see it before. So until, I guess, they all decide to accept their children, because I'm sure they have gay children or trans children, but it's not a problem.
Yeah, I hate this narrative that comes up time and again, especially when you have a Republican Party that's really taken to racism, anti-LGBTQ sentiments, all of it. I was in this small town in Iowa, Mount Ayr, and there was a young girl who knew that she was trans from a very young age, and she started transitioning very early. And the whole town really supported her. And this is a town of very conservative, mostly Trump supporting people. And they really embraced her and loved her for who she was. And something I heard a lot was, well, you can't even tell. She looks like she's always been a woman. They would say things like this. And it's almost like we're getting that narrative, oh, well, this is one of the good ones, because this one doesn't look weird. That typical narrative of like, oh, well, you're one of the good ones because you don't act like that. You don't act like the other people that are in your racial or gender or whatever category that we don't particularly like. He's gay, but he doesn't act gay. He doesn't throw it in your face. It's that idea of like, there are some people who fit their traditional way of life while still having this element about them. They want it to just be invisible, I think, is a big part of it. But it's antisocial to deny someone their identity. They should be allowed to be who they are in public. And so I really think stories like this are useful in breaking that down. And the way he talks about the spiritual side of things, I think is probably useful for a lot of people to really get it.
And that's what's actually so sad, because again, like you said, there's folks who go, oh, well, look at these 3 trans men. Would you want them in the women's restroom because they have goatees and have a lumberjack shirt on? It's odd how a lot of times that's the thought process of what a real trans man is supposed to look like. But then the discussions come up about gender affirming care. And that's sometimes is part of the process in doing so, to look and fit the bill so the rest of society can accept folks. And sadly, that's also part of what they're blocking, because we already don't accept folks unless we see it visually, like you don't make me uncomfortable anymore, so therefore I can accept you for who you are. How effed up is that? Just think about it as we go into this one, because plenty of libs and Democratic voters who think that way and don't realize how damaging that also can be. Who cares how uncomfortable you are? How uncomfortable do you make someone else in their life, rather than that 30 seconds when you pass them on the streets? Let's skip you guys down to the E block. Amazing things going down. Excuse me. Amazing things happening, and rescues going down. I watched some of these survival shows. My kid read a survival book for his class at the end of the school year just now, and this is a real life version of everything that we like to see. But there's a little bit of tragedy involved. Let's watch this.
This morning, new video shows the moment rescuers found 4 young siblings deep in the Amazon jungle. The eldest 13, the youngest just a year old, the kids looking emaciated but alive. For the last 40 days, rescuers had been scouring the forest, covering more than 1,600 miles. It was called Operation Hope. And finally, over the weekend, Colombian special forces in the middle of the night lifted them to safety, evacuating them to the capital of Bogota. The children, members of an indigenous tribe, had been living off the forest since their Cessna plane went down on May 1st. Along with their mother, they'd been flying from a remote Amazon community to a small city in central Colombia when the pilot reported engine failure at 7:30 a.m. May 1st.
Tragedy also with a little bit of miracle there. So 4 children were found alive after their plane went down there in Colombia, and all the adults on board actually passed away. So these rescuers then found them. They dropped supplies. They were looking for them for 40 days. 40 days. And the oldest of those children, 13 years old, was part of taking care of everyone else, including themselves, as they went through this whole ordeal. Now, there's more about how these rescuers found them and some of the clues that they left in the jungle that actually maybe helped them survive. Here's more.
The search began for what became known as Operación Esperanza, Operation Hope. For weeks, they searched for signs of exactly that. Together, Colombian military and indigenous community leaders took to the skies and the ground, scouring the rainforest, thick with underbrush, full of bugs and predators. Lost in the process, Wilson, a search dog, part of the rescue crew, still missing to this day, but found small signs of life, a diaper, a bottle, and footprints. Galvanized, the teams continued by night and by day. From a helicopter loudspeaker, the military played a recording of their grandmother reassuring the children, "Stay put, they're looking for you."
So many things coming together to make this happen, including, which I thought was a fabulous idea, a recording of their grandmother also being played over the top of what they hoped would be where these children were still surviving, to encourage them that they are looking for them a little bit more, because the mother then in this situation, she actually survived for a little bit of the time and had a couple of words of advice before she succumbed to her injuries. Leslie, the eldest child there, pointed out that she told her family from the hospital that her mother, Magdalena Mikuti, had fought to survive for 4 days after the plane crash, but eventually told her children to leave her behind, asking that oldest child to take care of her younger siblings. And the children's father, Manuel Ranok, told this radio that the children survived thanks to the knowledge passed on them by their parents, who always had the children alongside them while working on their farm and teaching them to eat wild animals. Survival skills that you would never have thought could maybe hold on or be needed to be used in such a situation here. Here's an image of those rescuers with those children who were, of course, as they point out, were emaciated, hadn't eaten much, but then survived a little bit. Some of it was from the first aid that they dropped, but also, oddly, a package of flour from the wreckage. It's the little things, Burbank, that sometimes people can survive off of. And I've watched some of these survival shows, Race to Alaska and all this, and I'm like, yo, there's cameras right next to you, bro. You're not really actually surviving. If things really went sideways, whatever a contract you signed, you'll be fine. But in this case, real life situation.
Definitely, yeah. I think spending a lot of time in that village in the Amazon, I wouldn't be surprised if they learned far more than we ever learned as kids about surviving, JR. That makes a lot of sense that they learned a bit from Manuel about how to, eat wild animals and stuff. I have friends who have visited the Amazon and have family who are indigenous there. And the way that they hunt and eat is really amazing, that there are still people who truly live off of the land and live really sustainably as well. What's shocking to me about this story is how much resources went into finding these kids. And I think it's a good use of resources, and resources aren't scarce, but oftentimes our government acts like they are. And so to see this many military personnel, just thinking about the fuel, how much money was spent finding these kids, when so often there are people that we can see, that we know are suffering, that we know could use some resources and have their life saved. It's just, we treat missing persons a little bit differently than we treat people in the hospital who don't have insurance, who have to delay care or can't receive necessary life-saving care. There are so many scenarios where people are going hungry and losing their homes, and we don't put resources to that, but we put a lot of resources to missing persons. Of course we should, but it's an interesting decision.
I guess there's a lack of private companies that run these types of things that then pay politicians to eliminate all social services that could help people in situations and give it all to them.
There you go. Yeah.
Just
the Uber for missing persons hasn't popped up yet, I guess.
There's still, I guess we're still looking for the privatized fire departments as well, which hopefully in these folks' cases that you mentioned here may eliminate that socialist fire department 911 call that you can make, or those things as well. Maybe because it affects other houses. Maybe this whole community thing that we like to talk about that we have in this country, or the best country in the face of the earth. We've been down this road before. But it's good news for these children that survived. Again, the youngest was only 11 months old. That kid turned a year old while they were out in the wilderness. And then apparently that dog, the rescue dog that went out there and apparently got to them at some point, they speculated that maybe it also got attacked by some predator out there and didn't make it. They haven't caught up with that one yet. Imagine that type of scenario. Even this rescue dog didn't make it, but these 4 children did. It's a miracle, you guys. Let's go and jump to this next story. This could be a bit of a discussion, bit of a disagreement even. I want you guys to comment as we go through this, because this is the F block, you guys. Because there was a way that potentially, allegedly, a serial rapist was caught up, but the methods are questionable for some. Let's watch.
15 years after a series of rape cases rocked the city of Boston, this morning, this 35-year-old Manhattan attorney is waking up in a Boston jail cell, charged with 7 counts of rape and sexual assault.
How do you plead to those offenses? Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty.
Matthew Nilo, accused of sexually assaulting 4 women in 2007 and 2008 in the Charlestown area. More than a decade after the trail ran cold, authorities revisited the investigation. Using forensic investigative genealogy, they determined Nilo, who was raised in Boston, was a person of interest. FBI agents in the New York area placing him under surveillance.
This guy, Matthew Nilo, he's a New York-based attorney. He's an attorney, successful. Looks like he's living his normal life there as a lawyer. They've discovered, or at least they're alleging, that he's a serial rapist from years and years ago. And they found this out through genealogy databases. Not his, but other folks around him. He was identified to law enforcement through family members. Check this out. Family members who voluntarily sent DNA samples to a genealogy database like 23andMe. This practice is controversial, of at least pulling family members' genealogy records. And this also the subject of at least one other lawsuit in New Jersey, and is currently banned in New York, where this guy is practicing as an attorney. However, though, this case has happened in Massachusetts, and the local district attorney is actually praising investigators for this approach. They also compared this DNA from these rape kits that they also took, which is the biggest surprise. They tested these rape kits, utilized them, and compared them to those genealogy records, and they found a somewhat match. But then how they got Nilo is the next step of how these things, about how they nailed him at least. Watch this.
FBI agents were able to obtain various utensils and drinking glasses they watched the defendant use at a corporate event. From one of the glasses, the Boston Police Crime Lab was able to obtain a male DNA profile, which is found to match the suspect profile from the 3 Terminal Street rapes.
Nilo was arrested last week at his home in New Jersey. His fiance seen clutching rosary beads in court, refusing to answer questions. Nilo's attorney saying his client maintains his innocence.
Crazy that this is the approach. Then they found, I mean, we've seen this on those crime shows. If they're investigating someone, have a sip of water and then leave it there, and they swab it and get this guy's DNA and connect him to these crimes. That's how they then linked him from the first point to the second point. And I'm sure there's many folks who are like, that's scary. Where do you land on this approach there, Burbank?
You got to read the fine print at the 23andMe when you're using it. Otherwise, you never know. But it sounds like the family member thing is very interesting, that they use the family member's DNA to find him. I think we should maybe make an exception in the cases of rape or very violent crimes, that 23andMe should be totally legal to be used, although I'm sure everyone who gave their DNA did check some box or had some fine print where they consented that this could be used by law enforcement. Also, it could have been subpoenaed. It's really fascinating that we're using DNA in this way. As someone who doesn't understand how DNA is matched, it seems to me that pleading not guilty, I'm not sure what's going to come up in court, but it sounds straightforward to me that if they've matched it to 3 different cases, and we also know how frequently women who have been raped don't actually get a rape kit done or go to law enforcement, that there could have been more than just these 3. So that's very disturbing. The fiance showing up to court is a lot. That is a crazy position to be in. And bringing the rosary beads, that's a tough situation.
I guess it's the only step left is to hope, pray, and show up. Because until I guess that evidence gets exhibited in court and really nails them to it, outside of the 99.99, it's pretty definite when it comes to DNA evidence on folks. So it's still at the alleged point of view, because of course he's just being charged, but he's also posting $500,000 of bail to get out, which many of the victims' families are very upset about. So just to show the level of success and access to money and privilege he does have, he was just living his normal life. And I've said it so many times, Rick, last thought here. If you've done something crazy in your life, who knows what family members you've got and friends have surrounded you, and you discover this, that's the first shocker. I assume his wife there was like, who? Say what? And this is the reality of what you're then experiencing. Scary stuff. But I guess where I land on is similar. You can't allow folks that may have been murdered or violently, brutally assaulted like this to go, oh, I guess we'll overlook it. But I get the morality part about that and the ethical part about just digging into people's DNA evidence to catch folks and how it could potentially be used by, folks to lie about. We've seen a law enforcement and sometimes prosecutors do things like that. How do you keep it tight? But I'm glad that if this is the case, that they did get one of these culprits. Burbank, thanks a lot, man, for joining me on another Monday. We'll make sure we tighten this up for next time. I've been in a horrible mood today, so that was the first problem. Thanks for being here with us.
Get here, the plane. The Republicans who control the weather didn't let my plane land. Anyway, next time we'll be here. We'll keep it tight. It'll be great.
Oh, we're good. We'll catch you guys for sure the next time around. Appreciate you, Burbank. Up next, you have the Young Turks. Go check them out. We'll see you guys next time.